Hola a todos. How's it going? Welcome to episode 2 of the podcast, Why Learn a Language?
Hola a todos y bienvenidos. Fluent fast and fluent at last. You're listening to the Moihu podcast. For more language learning resources, including blogs, podcasts, and private online Spanish and English classes, go to moihu.com. Ahora empecemos.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 2. If you haven't listened to the first podcast, it tells you a bit about me and how my language learning journey started. So in this episode, we're going to talk about the reasons or benefits of learning a language. For me, this had to be an early episode because I think motivation is key when learning something, and considering the process of learning a language is so long, knowing exactly why you started learning the language in the first place can get you off to a great start. So there's no point doing something if there aren't any payoffs. Each person has their own individual reasons for learning a language. It may be for a loved one, for work, out of interest, or maybe just a personal goal that you've set yourself. I'm going to go over the most general benefits. So some things like science and research have shown, and then I'll talk about some of the positive experiences I've had while learning languages. So first off, when you learn a new language, your brain undergoes some very interesting changes. I've done a bit of research and I've found some information. So firstly, your attention span increases. It increases your ability to multitask, and it even improves your memory. What was I going to say? No, I'm only joking. Children develop faster when they're raised bilingually. You become better at problem solving, and the average age for the first onset of Alzheimer's rises from 71 to 75 when you speak another language. So if you only speak one language, there's a chance that you get Alzheimer's earlier than someone who speaks two languages. Along with this, you'll understand your own language better as you start to learn about verbs, conjugations, conjunctions, and if you want to learn additional languages in the future, you'll find it easier because you already have an idea of what things are useful and how you study. So just looking at that website, there seems to be a lot of advantages to learn the language. To comment on them, I think I've experienced a few of these. So things like better memory, increased ability to multitask, improved attention span, things like that. I don't know because truthfully I've never thought about it and I don't really have a baseline to compare it to, so I can't give an opinion on things like that. But things like better understanding of my own language, definitely, as you start translating things and wondering what the equivalent is in your own language or how it's said, or if it's as common. Also, I learned French after Spanish, which was definitely easier as I had a concept of the grammar. I suppose French and Spanish are quite similar at times as well. And now I'm learning Irish, and it's definitely a lot easier because, first off, I'm more confident, but I'm also thinking about how I can sentences or what words are used in French or what words are used in Spanish a lot, and it definitely helps me when I'm studying. So that website has 80 benefits to learn a language with references if you don't take their word for it. I've listed a few of them here already, and I just want to share some of my own personal experiences. So as I say, that website has references and studies and evidence, and the rest of the things I'm going to talk about are just basically my own personal experiences with the languages. So they're very subjective and they're not based on anything other than my own opinion. So as I said in the introductory podcast, when I was in Tanzania, I had to translate between volunteers and some local kids, and I got a real buzz from doing that, and I still get a buzz when I communicate with people in French, or I get my point across in Irish. I'm learning a new piece of information or skill without using English, I think with Spanish, sometimes the novelty wears off a bit, because you're kind of used to just speaking a lot now. But moments when I still get a buzz from it, as well, I kind of see it like doubling up on learning. If I can learn how to cook something from a Spanish recipe, or if listen to a book summary in French, or I'm watching a show on Netflix in a different language, and I connect the dots and I think, that's how to say that in French, for example. Then it's still very interesting to me, and I suppose it's another way to justify binging a bit, as I'm still exposing myself to the language, Another thing about me is that I'm obsessed with like authentic cultural experiences. And although I love technology and stuff, and I teach online, and I love that you can travel very cheaply with Ryanair, I also hate when like culture's lost. Like I feel like like everybody listens to the same music or watches the same shows, and I think sometimes that can be quite sad. And like, personally, I prefer to go to a local working class part of a country than to stay in a 5-star tourist resort. And I just feel like you actually get to talk to normal people and see how they live. And instead of staying within like a touristic bubble, and not really getting to know the place. And like, don't get me wrong, if you just want a weekend break or to get away from it all for a bit, then that's fine. But if you've been going to the same country, sometimes the same city, the same resort for 15 years, every summer, and you still haven't learned some of the local language, like beyond cerveza, hola, gracias, buenos dias, like things like that, or learn about the culture, like, have you really made the most of your travels? And again, that's just my opinion. Like, you're entitled to your own, because you might just want to go and dip your feet in the pool, and relax. It just depends what you're after. I just find that by speaking the language, you can get, that sounds really snobby, doesn't it? I just find you have a more enriching cultural experiences by speaking to local people. I suppose it is kind of like that, but it's just diving in, like head first. I remember when I lived in Andalusia, and I was talking to an English girl about the city, and she didn't speak any Spanish, and she said to me, like, I understand so little of what's going on here. Like, if I see parades in the street, I'm afraid to ask people what it is, or if I get confused in the shops or I make a mistake, I just feel so lost. I just feel like the stupid tourist. And like for me, having lived in Spain for 3 years and immersed myself in the culture and the language, like, I feel so close to Spanish speakers, because I suppose it's my home away from home, and I feel like I can see their true selves when I speak to them in their own language. Like in Murcia, I volunteer in an old people's home with the wee radio show about talking about local traditions, and it still fascinates me being this close to the raw Spanish culture, and it would be absolutely impossible without the language. I remember as well, I was in a hostel in Paris in February this year, so February 2019, and I was there for some food and came back, and I was talking to some wee lad who was he Portuguese or Brazilian? So he was speaking Portuguese and I was speaking Spanish to him. And a couple of Spanish people ended up overhearing me, and I met 3 girls from Malaga and a fella from Argentina. And I just felt like I knew them my whole lives, like I had brilliant crack with them that night. The wee girls were up dancing flamenco and all, shouting all over the place. I just think it was a gig. And the 5 of us still have a WhatsApp group, like I just naturally tend to gravitate towards Spanish people or Spanish speakers. Another thing I've noticed is that you learn not to take yourself like as seriously anymore. Like when I first moved to Spain, I literally felt like I dropped several IQ points. Like, I was always making mistakes, and people had to make an effort to understand me, or I was slowing conversations down. I got embarrassed more. I didn't understand, and even now sometimes I might be the last one in the room to get a joke, but that's fine. And I think I've learned, like, I can laugh about it, and I think it's like helped me get over a fear we all have of making mistakes. And like, mistakes are great, you learn. Isn't it it's John Kavanagh, the MMA coach, says you win or you learn, and it definitely is true. Like, you don't offend, you realise you don't offend anybody by speaking their language. And if you're put in a new situation, you might even get a laugh out of it, trying to explain yourself. I find that if I'm learning Irish or something new, like, I don't really care if I get it at the start, because I know I will eventually. There's times like if I'm learning it and I can't express myself, and I just bust out laughing, because I just sound like such a buck Egypt, trying to get my point across. So there are some experiences I've had, and I was thinking about this, like all the benefits I've had, and I'm sure after I record this I'll think of other things, but it's just basically like feeling close to the people, feeling like you learn the language, taking an interest in them, sharing a taste in music, listening to songs and understanding them or relating to them and thinking, oh, it sounds better than this wouldn't sound as good in English, or it's just making those wee dots. And I suppose I could talk for hours about different experiences I've had, but I'll finish with a wee quote and a final experience. So with languages, you're at home anywhere, and that was Edward de Waal. 2 years ago I was in London and I was working there, and then after I met up with my mate and we spent a couple of days there, and it was so expensive. In Spanish you can say cuesta un ojo de la cara, like it costs an eye of your face, from your face, like it costs an arm and a leg. And it was so dear, and I was like, oh, frigus, I'm away to Spain. So I didn't know where to go, but I saw a cheap flight to Alicante. I was like, right, sweet, sounds good. So I booked a late flight and an Airbnb, and 2 days later I was on the plane. So the plane was already supposed to arrive late, and I got delayed, and it ended up not getting into the city until about 12 or something? 12 or something like that there, and then I had to get the train into the city centre from the airport, and it was warm. It was August. It was still hot even though it was really late. I had this big massive suitcase because I've been working in London all summer. And then when I got off the train I had to dress, but I realised my internet wasn't working. I was like, oh god. So I was like, right, I have to dress. I don't have a clue how to get here. And it was like 1 a.m. best point, and I was tired, and there were like loads of hills in Alicante, and I had my big suitcase, and I was feeling really sorry for myself, you know, like one of them, like, oh, what I put myself through this sort of thing. And then I remember thinking, like, do you know what, I don't even care, like, I'm in Spain, do you know, like, if it had been another country which I wasn't as familiar with, I would have probably been more worried. But I already lived in Spain, you know, I spoke the language well enough, like, I knew the people, I'd learned a bit of the culture, and I didn't feel like I was in foreign land, you know, or out of my comfort zone. So I managed to get to a place in the end, and I was just walking past people, in the shops, and saying, do you know where this is? And some of them knew, some of them didn't. I had a bit of crack along the way, you know. Eventually got there, explained the situation to the people, and it was grand, you know. So, like, as I say, like, everybody learns as I said at the start, everybody learns a language for different reasons. Like, you might like French cuisine, you might find Italian men or Portuguese women or Spanish, whatever you're into, attractive. And you might love Russian literature. Like, whatever your reasons, languages have a lot to offer you. I've tried to fit some of my reasons into this short podcast, and if you have any more, be sure to share them with us. So, in future podcasts, I'll be going over some related topics such as how to study, why to learn a language, like what type of Spanish should you learn, like a common debate at the start. And as I said in the first podcast, if you go on my website, there's also premium courses, which I've worked very, very hard on, and hopefully they prove to be useful for some learners. And of course, if you want a personalised experience to make sure you're learning as quickly and efficiently as possible, you can also contact me for private one-to-one classes on Skype in Spanish and English. Just send me an email at moyhu@gmail.com, moyhuu@gmail.com, and you can also follow us on Instagram, YouTube and Facebook too. So that's all from me at the moment. Thanks ever so much for watching, or listening I should say, and I hope you have a great day. Venga, hasta luego.